In this video, we're going to look at how we can do proper extractions from already existing geometry. Now, when a lot of people come to my class, I notice that that they are doing extractions incorrectly. So I just want to go over it one time and show you how I do extractions. All right. Let's go ahead and open a model here. So I'm going to click and drag them out. We'll hit T for edit, and I'm going to go ahead and change my material. All right. So we've got this character here, and I want to create for him a piece of armor, say, for his chest, a chest plate. This piece of geometry that we're looking at right here is Dynameshed. All right. So if we look at it, we can see it's got that kind of ugly giant Dynamesh topology. So let's turn that off, and that's okay. Now, it should be understood that when you're working with Dynamesh, Dynamesh is a tool, and this is covered in the Dynamesh videos, but Dynamesh is a tool that you should turn off when you're done with. All right. So we just click off the Dynamesh button. That way we don't accidentally do a marquee swipe like this and re-Dynamesh the model. Dynamesh is used to really just to create your base shape. Once you've got that done, you can turn Dynamesh off. Okay. So here we are. We've got this torso, and we're going to go ahead and extract a piece of geometry from it to create a chest armor. So to do that, I'm going to make sure that my symmetry is turned on. This guy is a symmetrical character. And I'm going to hold down Control and just paint on him. All right. So I can come off the model and paint a box like that if I want to get a nice flat cut sort of along the bottom right there. And then again, coming in here with Control and just finishing it off here. So just give me a second to finish this. We'll come up here, up in the shoulders. All right, do this as well. So when you're painting out your mask, just in case you didn't know, I'm holding down Control to paint the mask, just like this. Okay. And if I overpaint an area, say I overshoot an area here, if I come in and hold down Control and Alt, let's get this in here a bit. All right, I'm holding down Control to paint the mask. If I hold Control and Alt, I can erase the mask. Okay, so Control to paint it, Control and Alt to erase it. So again, I'm holding down Control here, and I'm just going to finish this off right here. Come in and take a look. That's looking okay. All the way around. Let's come up over the top here. Again, holding Control. I'll make my draw size a little bit smaller. And here we go. Something like this. All right. So one thing that happens with extractions more often than not is you end up having wobbly edges. And those need to be cleaned up. And I'm going to show you how we can do that. All right. So I've got my area masked out that I want to extract because I want to create some new geometry. And there's a little bobble right there. I'm going to hold Control and Alt and just clean that up. Okay. Now your mask is only going to be as crisp and clean and clear as your polygon count. If I had 1,000,000 polygons, the edges of this mask would be a lot crisper. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. Okay. So with this masked off, I'm going to come to my subtool palette, scroll down to the bottom where it has extract, and we'll open that up. And what you see here are the default settings for the extraction tool. More often than not, I see people just leave them exactly like that and then hit extract. And with double turned on, what happens is you oftentimes get a interior piece of the extraction. So it'll extract on the outside of the geometry, and with double turned on, it'll give you a double thickness. So you'll have an interior piece as well. And that's a problem later on when we want to try and clean that up. So the best way to do extractions is to turn double off and T border, and I would even take the thickness here and put it directly at 0. zero thickness. Now when we hit extract and go ahead and hit accept, all right, what that's going to do here, as you can see, is I'm going to solo this out. It gives us this piece of geometry. So now I need to get rid of the mask by holding control and selecting. And I'm also going to turn on double, right? And again, remember double is here in the custom UI for the class, and it can also be found over here in display properties double. All right, this will allow us to see both the front and back of that piece of geometry. Now, let's go back up here and let's look at him. Now remember, the piece that we extracted him from should also have a mask. So you'll want to get rid of that mask as well. Anytime you do an extraction, make sure that you go back and you remove the mask from the original piece of geometry. Okay. All right, so here we go. We've got this piece of geometry. It's 51,000 polygons. It's a little bit heavy for what we want to do. And if we look at it, what we've got here is an exact copy of the Dynamesh geometry that we extracted from. All right, but that's that's not ideal. So a couple things we can do here. I'm going to, with this guy, I'm going to scroll down to, I'm going to close up extract, and I'm going to come to geometry and open up ZRemesh right here. Okay, and I'm going to turn adapt off, and let's see, just leave it the settings exactly as they are with adapt turned off. Now make sure that your symmetry is turned on. All right, if you've got a symmetrical piece of geometry, make sure that your symmetry is turned on right there under transform. Remember the hotkey for that is X. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and hit ZRemesher. And we'll let this run. And I do this for every single piece of geometry that I extract. Okay, so we've knocked it down quite a bit, but I'm going to go ahead and go click on half and ZRemesh that again. All right, and let's go ahead and do that one more time. I'm watching my poly count here. All right, that's not too bad. I could probably do it one more time. Why not? There we go. All right, that's pretty good. That's a nice clean piece of geometry, but we still have somewhat wobbly edges from the extraction. So to fix that, if we come over here to say deformation, all right, and if you look closely, if you watch the edges here, all right, let me turn this a bit because it's also going to work on the edges right here. If we do polish by features, if you just move this over a little bit and let go, you'll notice that that will smooth out those edges. So let me undo that. You can have another look at that. You see how those edges right there are a little bit wobbly? Let's go to polish by features. There you go. And you can see that that smooths those out very nicely. We can go ahead and try it again. There you go. Now every time you run that, it shrinks the entire piece of geometry a tiny bit. Not a big deal at all. Nothing to worry about. All right. Let's go back to our character here and turn him on. There's my new piece of geometry that I've just extracted. Again, I like to come in and using the move brush, holding down Alt, I'm going to come in here and just pull that out a little bit. Okay, just like that. Now, we're not done with this piece yet. Okay, so let's just pull this out. There we go. All right, I'm going to solo that out again. So we're not done with this piece yet because right now we want to give it a little bit of thickness. All right, and to do that, we're going to use our Z modeler brush. So that's hitting, if we go to B for brush, Z for Z modeler, there it is right there. We hit the M key and our Z modeler brush is activated. So I'll make my draw size a little bit smaller by holding down my space bar, adjusting my draw size. And I'm going to come in here, I'm going to hover over a polygon face and right click. I'm going to Q mesh all polygons. So let's go ahead and just click and drag. You can see that we get some thickness on that. So I can go, if I drag one way, I'm going to get thickness on the outside. If I drag the other way, I'm going to get thickness on the inside. So we want thickness on the outside, and we're going to do this right here. All right. So that gives us a nice thick piece of armor. Let's see if we do this. There you go. You can see that we've got this going on right now. All right, nice, clean geometry. Of course, I could come down here and divide it as needed. Okay, so let me come down here. That's feeling a little bit thick, so I'm going to undo that and let me solo this out again. Again, I'm going to come over here and let's just hover over this and click and drag. And let's see, there we go, this way right here. All right, create something like that. All right, you solo this out again. Now that's great. That looks good. Well, we can take this a little bit further. Right now, you see that we've got two different poly groups. It looks like. Let me just go ahead and use my standard brush here. If I come in here and hold Control and Shift and click on this, you can see we can hide the inside and the outside, and we've got this poly group right here. So we've got three separate poly groups. All right. What I'm going to do, because we have a poly group on the edge right here, okay, one thing that we can kind of do is come in here and hover over. I'm going to go back to my Z modeler brush, BZM. I'm going to hover over a polygon, right click. I'm going to Q mesh a poly group all. Okay, and then we'll come in here, hover over a polygon, click and drag. You'll notice how we can drag out. You see what's happening here? We're dragging out that new poly group. Okay. And we can come over here now and let me just see, we might have a new poly group here. Let me see. Yep. So if I grab on the end there and pull, you can see that we've got that poly group right there. So we end up with something like this as our geometry. All right, let's turn our poly frame off so you can see that. We'll unsolo it so you can see what that piece looks like. There you go. So we're creating a nice piece, a nice sort of armor piece for him. Let's go ahead and if we come down here, we can look at dynamic subdivision. Dynamic subdivision is a smooth preview. So if I hit D, that will turn on my dynamic subdivision. I'm going to get this warning right here asking, are you sure you want to turn on your dynamic subdivision? I'm going to say always yes. All right. So you can see what we get there. Now this is just a smooth preview. It does not increase our poly count. But it allows us to see what this will look like with various levels of subdivision. So I can do this at 4 levels of subdivision just to see how smooth that might look, or take it back down to the default 2. All right. If I want to get out of this, I just hit Shift D. Will take me out of this. Okay. Whoops. Make sure we hit Shift D. There we go. And that'll take us out of this. Let's look at our poly frame right here. Another thing that we can do with this is add some holding edges. So again, with our Z modeler brush, let me solo this out here. If I hover over an edge, and just click with the Z modeler brush, all right, you can see that I can add a holding edge right there. Okay, let's undo that. I want to make that a little bit tighter. Hold on, Shift D. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to come in here, make my draw size a little bit smaller, hover over an edge, and we can click and drag. There you go. So now we've got a holding edge right there, and that'll give us a nice crisp edge on that. So let me just smooth that out by hitting D. All right. And you can see right there we've got a nice holding edge right there. Again, Shift D to get out of that. So we could go through this entire model and I could add holding edges just by clicking on there and dragging. Okay. But we can also do another thing with the Z modeler brush. If I come in here and again hovering over an edge and right click, I'm going to choose bevel and a edge loop complete. So now when I come over here and I hover over that edge and drag, I'm going to create a bevel. All right. So when I let go of that, that's my bevel right there. And ZBrush will remember the size of that bevel. So now with that set to bevel, if I just come in here and click on this edge, there you go. I've created a bevel right there. And I'll click along this edge. and we'll create a bevel there. And I can come down here and click along this edge right here and create a bevel. All right, let's come over here. I'm going to click in here as well, create a bevel. And let's go down to the bottom. Just push this back a bit. Oops, there we go. Okay, pull this over. And again, click on the edge right here, bevel, bevel. Okay, click right here, bevel. There we go. All right. So now let's go ahead and smooth this guy out with our dynamic subdivisions. Let's just push it back a little bit here. All right, I'm going to turn my poly frame off. Remember, the hotkey for dynamic subdivisions is just hitting D. And there you go. So now you can see with holding edges on there, we've got a nice, crisp, clean piece of geometry. Right? I can either go ahead and apply this dynamic subdivision, right, by clicking on apply right here, and that would give me what, 4 levels of subdivision. Let me go back down to 2. Be careful with this right here. All right, if you apply it, make sure you apply it at a relatively low polygon count, or else it'll make your polygon count shoot up. So we can either apply this. All right, there you go. You can see now we've got 3 levels of subdivision. There's our level 1. Nice low topology. The beautiful thing about this as well is that as we continue to model, when we get towards the end of our modeling, this is already retopologized. This does not need to be retopologized any lower. So we're saving steps at the end by creating nice clean geometry at the beginning. All right. So we've got 3 levels of subdivision here. That brings us up to 61,000. If I wanted to do more sculpting on here, I could come right here to my geometry tab and divide that even further. All right, so now we've got 5 levels of subdivision from level 1 at 3,800 all the way up to level 5 at almost 1,000,000 polygons. So this is how we do extractions. Okay, just do the simple extraction. And make sure that your thickness is set to 0 and that double and T-border are turned off when you do your extractions. You'll get much cleaner extractions that are a lot easier to work with. Again, if you have any questions on this, please contact me.